The day Daniel Harper walked out of the glass tower he had given 7 years of his life to, he didn't slam the door, he didn't shout, he didn't even look back. He simply placed his access card on the marble reception desk, exhaled a breath he felt he had been holding for years, and stepped into the rain like a man who had just set fire to the only bridge he had left. He had no backup plan, no savings worth mentioning, just a 7-year-old daughter waiting for him at home and a heart too exhausted to keep pretending. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because they remind us that even the smallest acts can change everything. Daniel had once loved his job. As a senior project analyst at a fast-growing tech firm, he had poured his mind and soul into every deadline, every presentation, every late-night spreadsheet. Back when his wife Emily was still alive, they used to joke about the long hours. She would wait up for him with reheated dinner and a tired smile, telling him it would all be worth it one day. They had dreamed about buying a small house with a backyard big enough for their daughter to run in circles without bumping into traffic. But Emily never saw that dream realized. A sudden illness had taken her in less than a year, leaving Daniel alone with a toddler and a grief so heavy it felt like concrete in his lungs. He had returned to work just 3 weeks after the funeral, not because he was ready, but because rent didn't pause for heartbreak. At first, his CEO, Victoria Langford, had sent flowers, a card with elegant handwriting that spoke of sympathy and understanding. For a while, his colleagues had covered for him when he needed to leave early to pick up Lily from daycare. But the corporate world has a short memory. Deadlines grew tighter, expectations higher. The empathy faded like a polite echo. Victoria was known as brilliant and ruthless in equal measure. She had built the company from scratch and demanded excellence with an intensity that made even seasoned executives nervous. Daniel admired her, in a distant way. She was sharp, focused, always 10 steps ahead. But she had no tolerance for weakness, and in her eyes, Daniel's slipping performance was exactly that. The truth was more complicated. Lily had started having nightmares about losing her father, too. She would wake up screaming, clutching his shirt, begging him not to go anywhere. Daniel began sleeping lightly, always half awake, listening for the smallest whimper from her room. Mornings came like punishment. He would drag himself to work on 3 hours of broken rest, his mind foggy, his heart somewhere else. He tried to keep up. He really did. But mistakes crept in. Small ones at first, a missed detail in a report, a delayed response to a client email, then bigger ones. A presentation that fell flat because he forgot to update key numbers. The board meeting where he lost his train of thought mid-sentence. Victoria noticed. One Friday afternoon, Daniel was called into her office. The city skyline glittered behind her like a reminder of everything he was about to lose. She didn't yell, she didn't insult him. Her voice was calm, precise, almost clinical. She spoke about performance metrics, company standards, leadership accountability. She said the company needed people who were fully committed. She asked if he was still that person. Daniel wanted to tell her about the nights he spent on the floor beside Lily's bed, about the way she clung to him at the school gate, about how he sometimes sat in his car during lunch breaks just to cry for 5 quiet minutes. But the words stuck in his throat. Corporate offices were not built for stories like that, so he did the only thing that felt honest. He quit. The silence in the room had been thicker than the rain that now soaked his jacket. Victoria's eyes had flickered with something, surprise perhaps, but she had simply nodded. "Very well," she had said. "I wish you the best." The next morning, Daniel sat at their tiny kitchen table staring at a spreadsheet of his own. Rent due in 2 weeks, utility bills stacked in a crooked pile, Lily's school fees. His savings would cover maybe 2 months, if they were careful, maybe less. Lily padded into the kitchen in her oversized pajamas, her hair a tangled halo around her small face. She climbed into his lap without asking and rested her head against his chest. In that moment, the fear loosened its grip just a little. He had left his job, yes, but he had not left her. Over the next days, he applied everywhere. Smaller firms, remote positions, even part-time consulting gigs. Rejection emails trickled in with polite phrases and automated signatures. He began selling things quietly. The second television, his old guitar, a watch Emily had given him on their 5th anniversary, which he boxed up with shaking hands before dropping it at a pawn shop. At night, after Lily fell asleep, he would sit by the window and wonder if he had made the worst mistake of his life. Then, one Tuesday evening, the doorbell rang. Daniel wasn't expecting anyone. He opened the door casually, still in his faded t-shirt and worn jeans. And there she was. Victoria Langford stood on his narrow porch, framed by peeling paint and a flickering porch light. No assistants, no driver. Just her, in a simple coat, looking oddly out of place in a neighborhood where lawns were uneven and cars were older than ambition. For a second, neither of them spoke. Daniel felt a rush of humiliation. Had she come to lecture him? To confirm he had made a foolish decision? He became acutely aware of the cracked tile near the entrance, the laundry basket visible down the hallway. Victoria's eyes moved past him into the small living room where Lily's drawings were taped to the wall. Crayon hearts, stick figures, a picture of a family with 3 smiling faces, one labeled Mom in shaky handwriting. Something in her expression softened. She stepped inside after he moved aside almost automatically. The air between them was thick with unspoken questions. Finally, she said she had come because she realized something after he left. She had reviewed his employment file, not as a CEO, but as a person trying to understand. She had seen the record of his wife's passing, the leave requests, the gradual decline in performance that coincided with Lily starting school. She admitted quietly that she had been wrong. The confession felt unreal. Daniel had not expected an apology, especially not from someone known for iron resolve. Victoria walked toward the drawings on the wall and paused at one of them. It showed a tall figure holding hands with a smaller one under a bright yellow sun. Above them, a pair of wings hovered in the sky. "Mommy," the caption read. Victoria's voice, when she spoke again, carried a weight Daniel hadn't heard before. She shared something she rarely told anyone. Years ago, before building her empire, she had lost her younger brother in an accident. She had thrown herself into work to escape the grief. Success became her shield, productivity her language. She had expected everyone else to speak it fluently, too. Standing in Daniel's living room, she realized that not everyone heals by working harder. Some heal by holding on tighter. Daniel listened, unsure whether to feel anger, relief, or disbelief. Part of him wanted to say it was too late, that pride had cost him stability, that his daughter's security had been gambled on a principle. But another part of him, the part still raw from nights of doubt, sensed that this moment was bigger than ego. Victoria explained that she wasn't there to offer his old job back exactly as it was. She had thought about that too. Instead, she wanted to propose something different. A new role, remote-based, flexible hours, focused on long-term strategy rather than daily operational pressure. It would pay slightly less, but it would give him control over his time. The company would also cover part of Lily's school fees through an employee family support program she intended to launch. Daniel's breath caught. It sounded almost too good to be true. He asked why. Victoria didn't answer immediately. She looked around the modest room again, at the mismatched furniture and the quiet evidence of a father doing his best. She said leadership wasn't about demanding loyalty, it was about earning it. She had built a company on ambition. Now she wanted to build one on understanding too. If she couldn't learn from her mistakes, then all her success meant nothing. In the hallway, Lily's small footsteps echoed. She had woken from her nap and peeked around the corner, curious about the unfamiliar voice. Daniel introduced Victoria gently. Lily waved shyly and then, in the unfiltered honesty only children possess, asked if she was Daddy's boss. Victoria knelt to Lily's height and nodded. Lily considered this for a moment and then said she hoped her boss wouldn't make Daddy sad anymore. The simplicity of the statement pierced the room like a beam of light. Daniel saw Victoria's eyes glisten just slightly. That night, after Victoria left, Daniel sat at the kitchen table again, but this time the spreadsheet before him looked different. Not because the numbers had changed, but because the weight in his chest had shifted. He realized quitting hadn't been an act of surrender. It had been a boundary. And sometimes, when you draw a line, you force the world to see you clearly. He accepted the offer the next morning. The weeks that followed were not magically perfect. There were still bills to manage, still moments of exhaustion. But Daniel worked from the small desk in his living room, while Lily did her homework beside him. He attended virtual meetings without missing bedtime stories. He walked Lily to school and back, holding her hand under the same yellow sun she had drawn. Victoria kept her word. The family support program expanded. Flexible hours became a company-wide option for parents and caregivers. Slowly, the culture began to change. Employees spoke more openly about their struggles. Productivity didn't drop as some had feared. In many ways, it improved. People worked harder when they felt seen. Months later, Daniel stood in the backyard of a modest new rental house with a patch of grass just big enough for Lily to spin in dizzy circles. It wasn't the grand dream he and Emily had once imagined, but it was real. And it was theirs, for now. He watched Lily chase butterflies and thought about how close he had come to breaking under the pressure. How a single decision, born out of desperation, had opened the door to something unexpected. Before we reach the end, if this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who might need encouragement, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Your engagement helps these messages reach further than you know. And here's a special request. Comment the word hope below if you believe that even in our lowest moments, something beautiful can still find its way to our door. Daniel often reflects on that rainy afternoon when he left the tower without looking back. At the time, it felt like failure. Now he sees it differently. It was the day he chose his daughter over fear. The day he trusted that dignity mattered more than comfort. The day he unknowingly gave his CEO a chance to rediscover her own humanity. Sometimes, change doesn't arrive in a boardroom. Sometimes, it stands quietly on your porch, waiting for you to open the door. And sometimes, walking away is the very thing that leads you home.